At my cousin's big party, he held up his glass. My sister had lost her job again. He said, sarcastic, maybe she should just dance for money. Our uncle laughed, saying she was good at that. The laughter stopped when the company boss walked in, looking right at me. "Ma'am, I need you to gather your things now," the security guard said kindly but firmly, standing by my desk. A dozen coworkers pretended to work as I tried to grab my coffee cup, my hands shaking. This wasn't a talk or a warning. This was the end. A cardboard box appeared, and the HR person, Sarah, came over with a fake, sad face. "Take your time," she said, her foot already tapping. The computer clock showed 10:23 a.m. I was fired just 37 minutes into my Tuesday. My fingers moved on their own. First, the coffee mug that read, "World's okayest employee," a joke gift from my friend. Then the small green plant I had saved. Its tiny leaves were finally bright after almost 6 months. My business cards went in next. Maria Jones, Senior Analyst. I had been so proud of that title. The hardest part was the picture frame of my mom and me at my college graduation. We were both grinning like we had won the world. My mom had passed away 2 years later, never getting to see me start this job, never knowing how the CEO himself had shaken my hand and said, "We need more people like you, Miss Jones." The security guard's voice brought me back. Everyone was watching now. I had always been the one people could count on, the one who stayed late to fix things, who brought birthday cakes, who did the projects no one else wanted. I had never done anything wrong, never missed a deadline. But that was my life story, wasn't it? Being perfect was never enough. I followed every rule. While my cousin, Sam, got in trouble, I tutored other kids for free. The first real problem came in our last year of school. Sam had cheated on a test to get into a community college. Instead of getting punished, our uncle bought him a brand new car. "He needs encouragement," our uncle said when I asked why my perfect grades only got me a pat on the head. I earned a full scholarship and had 3 job offers, but our uncle only said, "That's nice. Your brother is thinking about maybe going to a bigger school next semester." Thinking about next semester became the words that described Sam, while I was actually achieving things. But this new company was different. Your results mattered more than who you knew. I fixed a big server crash that saved a client, and the CEO thanked me. When I created a new security plan that stopped a data leak, I got a raise and a promotion. For 3 years, I felt valued. I worked long hours happily because every project was a chance to prove myself. Every problem I solved showed I belonged here. I had found my place, and it felt amazing. I never talked about my successes at family dinners because I learned my achievements made everyone uncomfortable. When I mentioned my promotion, Sam rolled his eyes and said, "Must be nice having a boss who likes you." Our uncle just laughed and changed the subject. They always found a way to make my wins feel small. When I bought my first car, Sam said I was showing off. When I moved into my own apartment, my uncle wondered why I was in such a rush to leave the family. The irony hit me now, sitting in my car with a box of my things on my lap. The job that had finally made me feel worthy was gone, and no one had given me a reason. Just a letter about company changes and a guard to make sure I left. My phone buzzed with a text from my uncle. "How's work, sweetheart?" I stared at it, then typed, "I got fired." He replied in 30 seconds with a thumbs up emoji. No "what happened" or "are you okay?" Just a thumbs up, like I'd told him about the weather. Then Sam's text arrived, a picture of a woman dancing with laughing emojis. He had turned my pain into a joke before I had even understood what had happened to me. I sat in that car for an hour. The part of me that had been collecting insults for 28 years was finally waking up. This wasn't just about losing a job. It was about a lifetime of being the good daughter who was never good enough. And for the first time, I wasn't going to smile and try harder. I was going to find out exactly why I had been thrown away. 2 weeks of being unemployed had turned my apartment into a mess. Empty coffee cups were everywhere, my computer sat closed, and I'd worn the same pajama pants for 3 days. My routine was simple. Wake up, check for jobs, feel bad, order food, and repeat. Then, an invitation slid under my door. It was a thick card with gold edges, the kind my uncle always used for important family events. My name was written on it, Miss Maria Jones. Not beloved daughter, or even just Maria. I tore it open, already knowing what it was. Join us in celebrating Sam's promotion to executive director at Miller & Co. The party was this Saturday at the fancy club my uncle used for all his business events. The dress code was formal. No mention of my firing, just a happy invitation to celebrate the Golden Boys' latest win. I threw the invitation on my coffee table. Executive director? Sam couldn't even spell definitely without a spell check. And somehow, he had gotten a job that would have taken me years to reach. The same Sam who cheated his way through school was now making a lot of money, while I was eating cheap noodles. My phone rang at 6:30 p.m. It was an unknown number, but I answered. "Maria, this is Harrison." His voice sounded different, almost like a whisper. "We need to talk tonight. Please, there's something you need to know about why you were fired. Something about your cousin." The coffee shop he chose was far away, a place where no one from our industry would go. Harrison was already there, hiding in a corner. He looked older than I remembered, with dark circles under his eyes and a worried energy. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I wasn't sure you would." "What is this about, Mr. Harrison? If you feel bad about firing me—" "I didn't fire you." The words were flat and final. "I was forced to let you go." My face felt hot. Forced by who? He slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a grainy photo. A younger Harrison at a college party, with his arm around a girl who looked no older than 17. "This was 25 years ago," he said softly. "Nothing happened, but without context." I stared at the photo, the understanding slowly sinking in. "Someone threatened you with this," I said. "Your cousin." Harrison's voice was barely a whisper now. He came to my office 3 weeks ago with this photo and a fake report saying I was inappropriate with female employees. He said he would go to the media and to my wife if I didn't clean house. The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm. Clean house? You mean fire you? Specifically me? Harrison looked me in the eye. He said you were getting too comfortable, that you might start expecting promotions you hadn't earned. He wanted you gone before you could become a threat to his own career. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Sam hadn't just ruined my career, he had planned it, using fake evidence to force my boss to fire me so he could get a job in my field without having to compete with his more qualified cousin. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. Harrison leaned forward. "I found out the photo was fake. The girl in the picture, I found her. She's 38 now, with 3 kids. She confirmed she was 21 in the photo. Your cousin changed her look to make her seem younger. You have proof to bury him." Harrison pulled the phone back. "The question is, what do you want to do about it?" I thought about the invitation on my table, about Sam's rude text, about my uncle's thumbs up, about 28 years of being told my achievements didn't matter. "I want my job back," I said. "Done. You can start Monday." Harrison paused. "But I get the feeling you want more than that." He was right. A plan was forming in my mind. Not revenge, but justice. Sam thought he was untouchable because he was always the favorite. He thought I would be too nice to fight back. "The promotion party," I said. "Will you be there?" Harrison's eyebrows went up. "Your uncle invited the whole board from Miller & Co." Perfect. A room full of the people Sam wanted to impress. The people he was counting on to build a career he destroyed to get. I stood up. "Mr. Harrison, I'll see you Saturday night." "Maria, what are you planning?" I smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. I'm planning to show my family who they have been underestimating all this time. When I got home, I picked up the invitation and called the number. "This is Maria Jones. I will be attending Sam's promotion party. Please add me and 1 guest." "Wonderful," my uncle's assistant said. "Any food needs?" Just one, I said, staring at my reflection in the window. I don't swallow lies anymore. My uncle texted an hour later, "So glad you're coming. Wear something modest. A lot of important people will be there." I texted back, "Don't worry, Uncle. I'll wear exactly what the occasion calls for." For the first time since the security guard came to my desk, I felt like myself again. Monday morning was strange, walking back into the company through the same doors that had kicked me out 3 weeks ago. But this time, I wasn't Maria Jones, senior analyst. I was a ghost. Harrison had set up my new office in the basement archives, a small room full of old papers. "Officially, you're a contract consultant looking at our security rules," he explained. "Unofficially, you have access to everything." The setup was perfect. No one would question a consultant looking at old files. No one would look twice at a woman in jeans carrying boxes of documents to her car. I was invisible again, but this time, it was my choice. I started with the public records of Miller & Co. The numbers didn't make sense, but after 3 days of checking expense reports and client bills, a pattern appeared. Sam's first mistake was small, a series of payments to a company called Strategic Solutions, LLC, which didn't seem to exist anywhere. I traced the company to a P.O. box paid for with a credit card from my uncle's company. Strategic Solutions had billed Miller & Co. for $47,000 for market research over the past 6 months, the exact time Sam had been networking. This wasn't just favoritism, this was fraud. The coffee shop across from Miller & Co. became my second office. I watched employees come and go, learning their routines. Sam left for 2-hour client meetings every Tuesday. They weren't client meetings. I followed him once, feeling silly but excited. His meeting was actually a golf lesson at the country club, paid for with a company card. The instructor confirmed it. "Oh yes, Mr. Jones's regular time," she said. "He's been here every Tuesday for 4 months. Such a dedicated student. Dedicated to stealing, maybe." But the golf lessons were nothing compared to what I found on the Vegas receipts. Sam had convinced Miller & Co. to send him to 3 different conferences in Las Vegas. I called each organizer. 2 of the conferences didn't even exist. The third was canceled. But Sam had still spent $8,000 of company money during a week he was supposed to be at a conference that never happened. The hotel receipts told a different story. Expensive room service for 2, spa treatments, dinners that cost more than most people's rent. Sam hadn't been networking. He had been living it up on someone else's money. Each piece of evidence felt like a small win, but I needed more. I needed to know how deep this went and who else was involved. That's when I met Margaret. She was cleaning Harrison's office one night when I was working late. A woman in her 60s with smart eyes and the quiet confidence of someone people had ignored for so long they forgot she was there. "You're the girl who got fired," she said, emptying a trash can. "I'm a contractor now," I replied carefully. Margaret's snorts laughed. "Honey, I've been cleaning offices for 30 years. I know the difference between hired and rehired. What are you really doing down here?" Something about her honesty made me trust her. "I'm trying to prove my cousin destroyed my career to hide his own crimes." "Ah, the handsome boy who was here a few weeks ago," she said. "The one who was making threats and acting like he owned the place? Saw him, heard him." Margaret set down her supplies. "He left some interesting papers in the trash in the conference room. I figured they might be important someday." She pulled a folder from her cart. Inside were emails between Sam and someone named D. Miller, my uncle's contact at Miller & Co. The emails were damning. Sam hadn't just blackmailed Harrison, he had worked with my uncle to get me out of the industry for good. They had even made a list of other companies where I might get a job and started spreading rumors about me. "Your cousin isn't very smart," Margaret said, leaving these right on top like he wanted someone to find them. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. Margaret's face got serious. "Because 30 years ago, I was the smartest accountant in this city, but I was also a single mom who couldn't afford the right clothes or connections. Men like your cousin and your uncle have been keeping women like us down for decades. It's time someone fought back." She became my most important ally. Margaret had access to everything, every office, every computer, every conversation people thought was private. She brought me security video of Sam's meetings, recordings of my uncle bragging about handling the Maria situation, and financial papers that showed a clear picture of what they were doing. But the most valuable thing Margaret gave me was a new way of seeing things. "You're not just fighting for your job," she said one evening. "You're fighting for every woman who's been told she's too emotional, too ambitious, too much of a threat to the boys' club. Don't just beat them, honey. Destroy the whole system." The party was 5 days away. I had 3 boxes of proof, a dozen witnesses, and a plan to expose not just Sam's crimes, but the entire network that had protected him. I also had something else. The quiet knowledge that while they thought I was broken, I had been building their downfall from the ground up. Saturday night arrived. The country club's outdoor space felt like a stage for rich people. I pulled into the driveway at exactly 7:20 p.m., just as I had planned. The valet recognized me. Word had spread. I was the Jones daughter who got fired, the family failure who still dared to show up looking calm and composed in a blue dress that cost a lot of money. I had chosen the outfit carefully, professional enough to command respect, expensive enough to show I wasn't broken, and proper enough that my uncle couldn't find anything to complain about. Every detail was planned. The ballroom buzzed with talk and the sound of glasses clinking. Sam was at the windows, his face red from drinking and all the attention. Even from across the room, I could tell he was already 3 drinks past being professional. His laugh was too loud, his movements too big. "Didn't think you'd show, sweetheart," my uncle said, appearing next to me with his usual smirk. "No dancing pole on this stage." The men around him chuckled on cue, executives who had learned when to laugh at the boss's jokes. I knew most of them, board members, lawyers, the kind of men who decide other people's futures over a game of golf. "Hello, Uncle," I said, taking a glass of champagne. "Lovely party." "Well, it's not every day your son becomes an executive director." His chest puffed with pride he had never shown me. "Sam has really found his calling. Natural leadership, you know." I sipped my champagne and looked for Harrison. He wasn't here yet, but I could see several people from my old company. Some avoided my eyes. Others looked at me with expressions I couldn't understand. Pity, curiosity, or maybe something closer to respect. "You were always too smart to fit in here," a voice said behind me. It was Mrs. Miller, one of the senior partner's wives. She was a silver-haired woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and the kind of confidence that comes from watching men disrespect women for decades. "Mrs. Miller," I said, surprised. "Call me Linda. I've been watching you tonight, dear. You carry yourself differently than the last time I saw you." Before I could respond, the sound of the microphone cut through the room. Sam was on the small stage, swaying slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his words a little slurred, "thank you for celebrating with me tonight. This promotion means everything. It's proof that hard work and dedication really do pay off." The irony was not lost on me. I watched my uncle beam with pride, watched the Miller & Co. executives nod their heads, watched a room full of successful people celebrating a fraud. "To family," Sam continued, raising his glass. His eyes found mine across the room, and his smile turned mean. "And to my cousin, fired again. Maybe she should stick to stripping instead of pretending to be corporate material." The laughter that followed felt like acid. It wasn't polite, it was real laughter from people who thought my professional downfall was funny. My uncle clinked his glass with someone else's. His smile was wide. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I didn't give them the pleasure of seeing me break. Instead, I looked at the door and waited. The doors opened at exactly 8:15 p.m. Harrison walked in alone. The room instantly grew quiet. People turned their heads. Harrison commanded respect in a way that had nothing to do with inherited wealth. He had built his reputation through decades of doing the right thing. He didn't stop to say hello. He walked right to the stage with the serious focus of a man on a mission, carrying a folder that seemed to weigh more than it should. Sam was still at the microphone, enjoying the applause from his toast. Harrison stepped onto the stage next to him. "Before you all toast, Sam," Harrison said, his voice cutting through the quiet, "there's something you should know." The room became completely silent. I could hear my own heart beating. I could feel the collective gasp from 200 guests who knew they were about to see something big. Harrison opened the folder, and I saw Sam's face lose all its color as he recognized some of the papers inside. "You blackmailed me, Sam," Harrison continued, his voice steady and clear. "You forged documents, changed evidence, and ruined your cousin's career to protect your own illegal activities." The silence was thick. I watched my uncle's champagne glass freeze halfway to his lips, watched the Miller and Co. executives look at each other in a panic, watched Sam's mouth open and close without a sound. Then Harrison turned to me, his eyes meeting mine across the frozen crowd. "Maria," he said, holding the folder out to me, "would you like to do the honors?" My hands were perfectly steady as I walked to the stage. The folder felt light. 200 pairs of eyes watched me, but I only saw Sam's face. The way his confident smile was turning into panic. I opened the folder slowly, letting the silence stretch until it was painful. The first paper I pulled out was a copy of an expense report from Miller & Co. Sam's signature was on the bottom, approving $8,000 for a Vegas conference that never existed. "This is interesting," I said, my voice clear without a microphone. "A business trip to the Southwest Technology Summit last March. Except, when I called the organizers, they told me the event was canceled." I held up the hotel receipt that was with the report. But somehow, Sam still managed to spend company money on a week at a fancy hotel, including room service for two and spa treatments that cost more than most people's monthly rent. A low murmur went through the crowd. I saw several executives looking at each other, their faces tight as they realized their golden boy might not be so golden after all. "Wait," Sam said, grabbing the microphone. There's an explanation for." "There's more," I interrupted, pulling out the next paper. "Strategic Solutions LLC, a company that billed Miller & Co. for $47,000 for market research." I looked right at my uncle, whose glass was completely still in his hand. "The company is registered to a P.O. box paid for with a credit card from one of your accounts. Strategic Solutions has no employees, no office, and no actual work to show for nearly $50,000 in bills." The silence was deafening now. I saw people pulling out their phones, probably texting their lawyers. This was no longer just family drama. This was a corporate scandal happening in real time. My uncle finally found his voice. "Maria, I don't know what lies you've—" "I'm not finished," I said, and something in my tone made him stop. The fake evidence against Harrison, the changed photograph to make it look like he was with a minor, the plan to ruin my reputation at other companies. These are emails between Sam Jones and David Miller, planning my professional destruction to get me out of their way. David Miller, a distinguished man in his 60s at a front table, had gone completely pale. His wife was staring at him with a look that promised a very long talk at home. "You want to know why I was really fired?" I continued, looking at people all over the room. "Because I was getting too good at my job. Because I might expect promotions I hadn't earned. Because having a competent woman in a senior position might create conflicts of interest when Sam decided to get a job in my field." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. I watched Linda Miller lean over to whisper something in her husband's ear. "This is ridiculous," Sam said, his voice cracking. "She's clearly having some kind of breakdown. Everyone knows she's been unstable since she got fired." "Sam," Harrison's voice cut through his protests like a blade, "you're terminated, effective immediately." The words hung in the air for a moment before they hit. I reached into the folder one more time and pulled out a termination letter. "Signed with your own signature stamp," I said, handing him the paper. "The same stamp you used to approve fraudulent expenses. Consider it poetic justice." Sam's face turned the color of the red wine someone had spilled on a white tablecloth. His hands shook as he took the letter, and I watched 28 years of his arrogance crumble. But I wasn't done. "There's one more vote that was taken today," Harrison announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the ballroom. "The Miller & Co. Board of Directors held an emergency meeting this afternoon. Elijah Jones has been removed from his position as chairman, effective immediately." My uncle's champagne glass finally slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. "The motion passed by a single vote," Harrison continued. "The deciding vote was cast by the newest member of the board, someone who was approved this morning, based on her wide experience and her commitment to doing business the right way." Every eye in the room turned to me. I felt a strange calm settle over me, like putting on a jacket that finally fit. "You cast the deciding vote," my uncle whispered. I looked at him, truly looked at him for the first time in years. The man who had dismissed my wins, laughed at my pain, and helped ruin my career. "You taught me this game, Uncle," I said quietly. "You just never expected me to play it better than you." Security guards appeared. 2 men in dark suits waited for their signal. Sam was still staring at his letter when they came up to him. "This isn't over," he said, but his voice had lost all its confidence. "You can't just—" "Actually, we can," Harrison said, "and we have. Security will escort you both out." As they were led away, Sam complaining loudly about betrayal and lawsuits and my uncle trying to keep his dignity, something amazing happened. Someone started clapping. It was Linda Miller, her gloved hands coming together in slow, meaningful applause. Then her husband joined her, despite everything. Then the woman at the next table. Within 30 seconds, half the room was applauding. Not the polite clap of social duty, but real appreciation for what they had just seen. I raised my champagne glass to the crowd, feeling lighter than I had in months. "To family," I said, repeating Sam's earlier toast, and finally being good at something. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel this time. It was a release. It was almost a celebration. The applause was still ringing in my ears when I finally got home that night. My heels clicked on the marble floor of my building with a new rhythm. Confidence, maybe, or just the sound of someone who no longer had to say sorry for taking up space. I poured myself a glass of wine from a special bottle I had been saving and sat on my couch. My phone kept buzzing with messages, but I ignored them. This moment was just for me. Morning came with a new kind of clarity. No tiredness, no dread, no checking my phone for job listings. For the first time in months, I woke up knowing exactly where I was supposed to be. Harrison had texted at 6 a.m. "Board meeting at 8. Big changes coming. Hope you're ready." I was more than ready. The company lobby looked the same as always. Polished marble floors, tall windows, the low hum of success. But something felt different when I walked in. The security guard who had escorted me out weeks ago nodded respectfully. The receptionist who had avoided my eyes during my firing looked up with genuine warmth. "Good morning, Miss Jones," she said. I realized I had never learned her name in my 3 years there. "Good morning, Rachel," I replied, reading her name tag. "It's a beautiful day, isn't it?" Her smile widened. The most beautiful I've seen in months. The executive floor was full of energy. People I had worked with offered quiet congratulations as I passed. Some seemed truly happy for me. Others looked nervous, probably wondering if my return meant their jobs were at risk. Harrison was waiting in the boardroom with several other executives from the party. The mood was professional but warm, with an excitement that was contagious. "Maria," Harrison said, standing as I came in, "I'd like you to meet your new team." The introductions were a blur. Vice presidents, senior managers, people I had seen on company lists but had never worked with. What impressed me was not their titles, but their expressions. These weren't people just going through the motions. They looked truly interested in what I would bring to the table. "Before we start," Harrison said once everyone was seated, "I want to talk about the obvious thing. What happened last night wasn't just about exposing crime. It was about admitting that I, failed to protect one of our most valuable employees. He looked right at me. The board voted to offer you the position of Chief Operating Officer, effective immediately. But more than that, we want to rebuild this company's culture to make sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else. The title hit me like a physical force. Chief Operating Officer. Not just my old job back, but a position 3 levels higher. The kind of role I had dreamed of, but never dared to expect. What exactly does that mean? I asked. It means you're in charge of operations for all departments, said Janet Miller, Mrs. Miller's daughter-in-law, who I realized was a senior executive herself. It means you have the power to make the changes you think this company needs. We're not just giving you a fancy title, we're giving you the power to use it. An hour later, I stood in front of what was now my office, staring at the brass nameplate that hadn't been there the day before. Maria Jones, COO. The letters seemed to shine under the lights. The office was impressive. A corner spot, tall windows, a conference table for 12 people. But what I noticed most was the desk. It was completely empty, a blank page waiting for me to fill it with my own vision. I called my first all-hands meeting for 2 p.m. The main conference room was packed, with people standing along the walls and others joining on video calls. I saw curiosity on their faces, mixed with cautious hope and, in some cases, barely hidden worry. I know some of you are wondering what my job means for yours, I began, deciding to address the fear directly. Let me be clear, we're cleaning house, but we're not burning it down. Everyone in this room gets a chance to prove who they really are. The relief was immediate. Shoulders relaxed, people leaned forward instead of back. The energy in the room went from defensive to engaged. What I learned over the past few weeks, I continued, is that corruption grows in silence. It grows in the space between what we say publicly and what we allow privately. We're going to change that. I explained my plan: clear promotion rules, an anonymous way to report problems, regular checks to make sure everyone was paid fairly, and mandatory training for all managers. This isn't about punishment, I said. It's about building something better. The questions that followed were thoughtful and honest. These people weren't just looking for job security. They wanted to be part of something meaningful. My phone rang 3 times that afternoon. My uncle's number appeared twice. I sent both calls to voicemail without listening and then blocked his number for good. Sam's email around 4 p.m. A long message that started as an apology and then turned into him blaming me and making excuses. I deleted it without finishing and set up a filter to automatically delete any future messages from him. Some ghosts are not meant to haunt you. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is let them fade away. I stayed late on my first day, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The building became quiet as people went home to their families, but I felt strong, not tired. On my desk, I put a single photograph. My mom and me at my college graduation, both of us smiling like we had conquered the world. She had been gone for 6 years now, but I could still hear her voice clearly. "Don't let them convince you that silence is grace, Maria," she had said during one of our last talks. Sometimes the most graceful thing you can do is refuse to be quiet. I finally understood what she meant.